Hello, my name is Mike. My name is Mark, and we are students of Ghana Christian International High School, and we urge you all to subscribe to His Girl TV. Link in bio.
Hello there, you are welcome to HisGov TV. Before we begin with today's discussion, please kindly click on the subscribe button if you are interested in the lessons for SHS, especially in the General Arts Department. So if you are interested in history, CRS, government, English language for SHS, social studies, and we are also in the process of adding more. Of course, kindly tap or click on the subscribe button for us. Good. So today we are looking at another important event that occurred in the Gold Coast struggle to achieve independence. In our previous lessons, we have looked at one important event which also became a watershed in the history of the Gold Coast, and that was the 1948 route, which occurred in Accra and then got spread throughout the whole country. And so today we are looking at yet another important event in the history of the Gold Coast and the Gold Coast struggle to achieve independence for herself. Now we are looking at the formation of the Convention People's Party, the CPP, and I am aware that you know the CPP party, and it is the same CPP party that you see today or you hear in elections today. They are the same CPP party that we are going to talk about today. We are going to look at how the CPP was formed, how the CPP came about. Okay, even though today we don't see them playing an active role in Ghanaian politics because they hardly win seats, and also we don't hear of them today. They are more or less a minority party, but indeed the CPP was never a minority party. It was one. It has been one of the biggest political party in the political history of this country, Ghana. And so today we are going to look at the formation, how the party was formed. Then specifically, we will look at the aims at the time of the formation. Probably maybe today the aims have changed, but then we will look at the time of formation, the aims and objectives of the party. We will also look at the achievements of the CPP party. So out of the aims and objectives, which of them were they able to achieve, okay, as a political party? So like I indicated earlier, probably today these aims and objectives may change as the time also what changes. Good. So be with me and let's begin with our lesson objectives. Before we even begin with the lesson objectives, this is the political flag of the CPP, the emblem of the CPP, and I may want somebody to actually tell me the meaning of the cock, the red cock, in the middle of the CPP, and their motto has always been forward ever, backward never. Conventions People's Party. You know, it's one of the biggest party. I admire them so much. Let's look at some of the lesson objectives for today. So one of our lesson objectives for today will be that by the end of this lesson, you should be able to mention the names of the founding members of the CPP. So who were those who came together to form the CPP? You should be able to state or mention some of the names. Again, you should be able to state the aims and objectives of the CPP at the time of its formation. What were some of the aims of the CPP? What did the CPP aim to achieve as a political party? And then the third one, you should be able to outline the achievements of the CPP among the aims and the objectives of this party. Which of them were they able to achieve as a political party? And you should be able to outline some of these achievements also for us. Good. So let's begin with the introduction. The Convention People's Party was formed in Accra. Okay, it was formed in Accra on 12 June 1949. So this was almost a year after the 1948 rout had occurred, because during the 1948 rout, when Nkrumah was arrested, Nkrumah was still part of the UGCC. Okay, and so it was formed by Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, the first president of the Republic of Ghana, and also the first secretary of the UGCC. And so Nkrumah, for one or two reasons, which we shall look at in a subsequent lesson right after this one, Nkrumah, for some reasons, broke away from the UGCC. Okay, some of the reasons, if I may, of course, summarize them, were ideological, differences and the strategy, and the method of Nkrumah that Nkrumah wanted to adopt in achieving independence. Nkrumah's method was more or less a radical method, boycotting, strikes, and co. But the UGCC were not in support of this strategy. However, Nkrumah's link with the Soviet Union was also a problem for the leading members of the UGCC, because these leading members of the UGCC were very, very inclined to the capitalist bloc. Of course, that's the British. And so they didn't want any of their members to be seen associated with the Soviet Union, whereby it may create tension among they and their, of course, colonial masters. And so because of some of these reasons, Nkrumah had to resign as the General Secretary of the UGCC due to some of these reasons that I have talked about. And so he resigned to form his own political party. That is a year after the 1948 rout on June 12, 1949. The UGCC, the CPP, was formed. I happened to listen to the daughter of Pa Grant in a video interview who described how Nkrumah resigned. According to her, she said that Nkrumah was the UGCC actually had planned to sack him because J.B. Dankwa also had seen a letter that Nkrumah had written to the Soviet Union, and according to the woman, the J.B. Dankwa confronted Nkrumah and told him that they were not dealing with the Soviet Union, and so he should not be writing letters to the Soviet Union. However, Nkrumah got upset, and the two of them, that is the beginning of the rift, between J.B. Dankwa and Dr. Kwame Nkrumah. It began from there. It began from this area, and the two of them never saw an eye to eye until even later he was imprisoned. J.B. Dankwa was imprisoned by Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, where he died, and so many things. So that was the beginning of the conflict between J.B. Dankwa and Dr. Kwame Nkrumah. But to the woman, he said, so they had planned to, the members of the UGCC had planned to dismiss Nkrumah upon his invitation. But Nkrumah got the news, and some of his boys told him that if you go to these old men, don't forget Nkrumah was, at his youthful age, but the members of the UGCC were also more or less very old, and so you know how the older generation behave, their behavior is quite different from the youth, all right? And so Nkrumah saw that he was going to be dismissed. So he there and there wrote his own dismissal letter to the members of the UGCC. And so he resigned from the UGCC and then formed his own political party, the CPP, in 1949. Don't also forget that, you see, after Nkrumah's resignation, you realize that the party will not have any energetic young man to carry out some of the duties of the party, because, as I have said earlier, most of these UGCC members were old, all right? They were very, very old, and they were, of course, concentrating on their work. Let's look at some of the leading members that Nkrumah formed the CPP with. Okay, so one of Nkrumah's leading member was K.A. Gbedema. Yes, K.A. Gbedema. He is the one over here. And he will be the one to campaign for Dr. Kwame Nkrumah when he was overthrown, when he was in prison. Of course, when he was in prison for calling for a positive action. So that is him over there, K.A. Gbedema. And he will go on to become the first finance minister for the Gold Coast. All right. So K.A. Gbedema was the chairman, the vice chairman, whilst Nkrumah himself became the chairman. Then Kojobo Otuo is the one you see over here beside K.A. Gbedema. And Kojobo Otuo was the secretary of the CPP And Kojobocho will go on to become also the minister or the first minister of foreign affairs and regional integration. I don't know if you know the current minister for foreign affairs and regional integration. She is a woman, all right? So, of course, that is Kojobocho over there. Then you also have AYK Jan. He also became he was also the financial secretary of the UGCC, of the CPP. Okay, and then we also have Kofi Bakun over there, and Kofi Baku's image is the one under Bedema. You have seen him over here in cloth. Then we had another person called Krobodusei, and Krobodusei, the man smiling, with a big smiles over there. Krobodusei was a minister without portfolio at the beginning in 1957, but later he was made a transport minister and also agric minister. And there are so many things, interesting things about this man. I wish you would read about him. Then the last person we will talk about is Pobi Baini, and I couldn't get his image over there. So these were some of the members or the founding members of the CPP who decided to help Nkrumah in the fight in the struggle for independence. Good. So if you're asked to mention some of these members, I hope you will be able to do that for them. So let's take a look at the aims and objectives of the CPP. Remember, in our earlier lesson, we looked at the aims of the UGCC. So go in there, compare the aims of the UGCC to that of the aims of the CPP. And see the differences, and also try and look out for who was able to achieve most of the aims that they set out for themselves. Okay, so the first aim of the CPP was that the CPP was to achieve immediate self-government now for the chiefs and people of the Gold Coast. Self-government now. Now, you also recall that the UGCC said self-government within the shortest possible time. Okay, and this was also another another tug of war between J.B. Dankwa and Dr. Kwame Nkrumah as to the self-government now and self-government within the shortest possible time. To achieve this goal, according to Nkrumah, they were going to include the government workers, the farmers, the traders, the ex-servicemen, and students were all to be organized. And this was one of the differences between Nkrumah and the strategy adopted by the founding members of the UGCC. You see, Nkrumah recognized that because he was coming from a socialist background, he of course recognized that without the inclusion of these people, independence was going to be difficult to achieve. But with the members of the UGCC, they were just, they were lawyers. They had been to school, been to universities abroad. And so they had, this in mind that we will negotiate, in a diplomatic way with the British officials, and they will grant us independence. We don't need these, rowdy people to be around, the place all over. And that was one big difference between Dr. Kwame Nkrumah and the leaders of the UGCC. And so Nkrumah had to mobilize all these people, government workers, farmers, traders, and ex-servicemen, as well as students, all right? That is what Nkrumah wanted to do. That was the strategy, that was the roadmap. That was the roadmap to achieving independence. We must include all these people on board. But that is what the UGCC failed to do. So self-government now. The next one was the CPP was also to serve as a vigorous political vanguard for removing all forms of political oppression and establish a democratic government. All right, it's more or less like a manifesto being read out to us over here. Remove, of course, any forms of political oppression, and also establish a democratic government. That is what the CPP was about to do as a political party. Then the next one was to secure and maintain the complete unity. And I love this word, secure and maintain, all right, the complete unity of the chiefs and the people of the colony, Ashanti, the Northern Territories, as well as the Transvolta area. And I have already said in one of our lessons, I don't remember which of them, but I've already said that when we talk about Gold Coast, the present-day Ghana today, the areas that constitute present-day Ghana, was not referred to as, the Gold Coast. The Gold Coast only referred to the colony, all right? The Gold Coast only referred to the colony. Asante was not a Gold Coast, and Asante was not referred to as a Gold Coast, not ever. It has never happened. So the Gold Coast only referred to the southern states, okay? And so before independence, all these states were independent on their own. They were never united. They had not been united as one. The Gold Coast was under the British rule. Asante was separate until 1900 when Asante was conquered after the Asantewaa War. Then the British felt that they should add Asante to the Gold Coast. Even with that, they were ruling, Ashanti differently from the Gold Coast. Now the northern territories, the northern regions today, were also not part of the Gold Coast. They were on their own. In fact, these northern territories were under the Ashanti Empire. All right. Then we come to the Transvolta Togoland, the area, the area now we call the Volta region, up to the northern part of the country. We heard that they wanted to, to leave the Ghana, whatever. But the Transvolta Togoland was also a trusteeship area, which, was not part of the Gold Coast. They were indeed part of Togo. However, after the First World War, when Germany was defeated, it was a German colony. Togo was a German colony, but after the World War and Germany was defeated, France and Britain, these two allied, powers decided to partition Togo. Of course, British took half, and then, the French also took what we now call today Togo. And that is how come even that part of Togo became part of the Gold Coast, Ghana. And so the Gold Coast, indeed, we should not confuse the fact to say that Ghana was called the Gold Coast before independence. Really, it wasn't so. The Gold Coast only referred to the southern states. Ashanti has never been called Gold Coast. Ashanti has been Ashanti. Northern Territory has been Northern Territory. Transvolta. Okay? So indeed, the country was, they call it an amalgamation of different parts, to be one. And so we should be very careful as to how we say some of these things. Let's look at the next one. They also to work with and in the interest of the trade unions movement in the country for the better, condition of employment. So, still including the government, the working class, all right, to spearhead independence. And then the next one is to work for a proper reconstruction of a better, Gold Coast, in which the people shall have the right to live and govern themselves as free people. And these ones are self-explanatory. The next one is to assist and facilitate in any way possible the realization of united and self-governing West Africa. United. So the CPP also aimed at bringing the whole of West Africa under one government, okay, and ruling themselves, and more so, forwarding it to the whole of the African continent as well. And before you can do this, at this time that they were making or stating, or drafting these objectives, most of the African countries were still under colonial rule, and so you have to help them to gain their independence before you can tell them to unite with you as well. So these were some of the aims and achievements of the CPP, and lo and behold, they were able to achieve quite a lot of them. So let's take a look at the achievements of the CPP and compare it to that of the UGCC. Now, the CPP, led by Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, won independence for the country. This was a major objective of the CPP, and the catchword self-government now, many people were attracted to the party. Because self-government now, many people were attracted to the party. You recall in 2016 election when Akufo-Addo was saying that free education now, Mahama was saying free education within the shortest possible time, in his famous word, progressively, you understand? And people felt that progressively, we don't know the meaning of progressively. What do you mean by progressively? What time is progressively? And therefore, a lot of people voted overwhelmingly for the NPP, and Akufo-Addo became, of course, the president of the Republic of Ghana. And so, independence within the shortest possible time. What kind of time is that? We need it now. And so that attracted the people. Let's try this now and see if it will work. And it worked for them. It worked for them. So the CPP, let's put it on record, was the political party that achieved independence for Ghana. Period. The UGCC did not achieve independence for Ghana. So if there is any party to celebrate, I think that it should be the CPP. All right? And I'm saying this because of one thing, and I'll tell you why I'm saying if there is any party to be celebrated in the fight against colonialism in this country, it should be the CPP and not any other party. And I'll tell you why I'm saying this as we move on. Now, the CPP again won all parliamentary elections, and this is the most fascinating thing about the CPP. They won all the parliamentary elections in 1951, 1954, and 1956. All these three elections that were held in the country, the CPP won all of them. I mean, the 1951 election, for instance, was the first time an election was conducted in this country, in 1951. And in 1951, they were contesting for 38 seats, parliamentary seats, 38. Out of that 38 seats, the CPP won 34 of that 38 seats, whilst the UGCC won only 3 of that 38 seats. Okay? Now, in 1954, after Nkrumah, brought up a new constitution in 1954, things had changed, and so an election had to be, of course, conducted to reflect the demands in that constitution. In that election, the number of parliamentary seats being contested were 104, and the CPP won 71 of those 104. Now, the UGCC, because they couldn't perform well in 1951, they had changed their name to the Ghana Congress Party, the GCP. And they were led by Oforiatta, J.B. Dankwa, and K.A. Buzia. The CPP, the UGCC had only 1 out of 104. So you can even see that their fame was dwindling, was diminishing. J.A. Brima, who, of course, represented the Northern People's Party, won 12. J.A. Brima was even famous to these people. You understand? And so that is why I'm saying that if there is any political party to be celebrated, then it should be the CPP. Because let me tell you, when Akufo-Addo came to office, don't also forget that the CPP, the NPP today, their forefathers, their ancestors are the UGCC. They came from the UGCC. That is where they came from. That is their root. All right? Now, when Akufo-Addo came to power and the Founders' Day, I said this, I think in one of the lessons, I don't remember. And the Founders' Day was slated to 21st of September. That was Nkrumah's birthday. He quickly changed it to 4th August. Now, why is it 4th August? Why was the date changed to 4th August? Because 4th August was the date in which the UGCC, which we always talk about, was formed. And so, in a way, that day is the day for the UGCC. And that is why I made a recommendation that even if we should change, and they came out with an argument that everybody should be celebrated. It wasn't only Nkrumah who achieved independence, and so we shouldn't fix it on Nkrumah's birthday, which I totally agree with them. However, for you to change that on Nkrumah and then fix it on your forefathers' day that they founded their first political party, which you and your people comes from, that is not the right way. And that even affirms the views of people that you want to, as a president, you want to propagate the legacy of J.B. Dankwa and co and all of that, K.A. Buzia and co. That affirms that. Because to me, if the Founders' Day had been slated on the 28th of February, 1948, that was the day of the rout that brought about independence, that would be a neutral day. But for you to fix it, take it from somebody's birthday and put it on your political party's Founders' Day, that makes it of course, suspicious. People would think you want to propagate your people. But you see, if you want us to celebrate the UGC, of course, that, what do you call it? The 4th August holiday, it is not a Founders Day. It is indirectly UGCC Day. It's as simple as that. And so we are celebrating the UGCC, the founders of the UGCC, not the Founders Day, because it is not a neutral day. Not all the nationalists that fought for independence were part of the formation of the UGCC. Okay? So indeed, it is a UGCC day. If you want us to celebrate the UGCC, just take a look at the track of course record that I have just given you. 1951, they won only 3 seats. A party that won 34 and won independence for your country, you are not celebrating it. In 1954 election, they won only 1 seat. They changed their name, won only 1 seat. That party that you don't want to celebrate, the CPP, won 71 seats. So ask yourself, why didn't they change even that date to the date that the CPP was formed? Somewhere June or so, 12th June 1940. Why don't they change? Why didn't he change the name to that area? So that is some of the things that historians are concerned about, and people in general are even concerned about that. Akufo-Addo is only trying to of course, to propagate the works of his people. But anyway, that is just by the way. And that is for the fact that I have given you. And I presume that, of course, you have your own, you may also have your own say, but I have said what I want to say, and I'm fine. Let's move on. So the CPP also aroused political awareness of the people. Thus, it brought all manners of people, including the commoners, into politics. The commoners into politics. And this is also one of the things that I told you that the members of the UGCC failed to do, because they felt that they were lawyers, and so, lawyers and their diplomatic, of course, lifestyle, let's judge or let's talk. And so they felt that they could do it behind back door and come back and tell the people that we have gained independence for you. But independence is never achieved. It has never been achieved in any way, in any country like that. And so the CPP was able, through Nkrumah, was able to include everybody in politics. It is indeed everybody being involved is what will grant you the independence. Good. Let's take a look at more. Now, the party also made significant contributions toward African unity and Pan-Africanism. For example, the CPP, after Ghana's independence, assisted other African countries to achieve for political independence. And so they also made significant contribution to African unity and Pan-Africanism. And when the issue of Pan-Africanism and African unity is a topic on its own. It's a broader topic on its own. But let me just touch on that. When Pan-Africanism is mentioned, people feel that it is out of date. It is of no use. But hey, Pan-Africanism is still relevant today, and we still need Africa to be united as one country, to have one president, to have one currency, to have one military high command, to have common economic policies. You see today, our currency, have you seen how our currency is running away? And people don't know how to catch it. Go and see the CFA, if the CFA is also running away like that. You get a point. Today we are suffering because our currency is running away, because there is no value in that currency. Why is there no value in that currency? Because, we don't produce anything. Our economy is dependent on the West. But imagine African had a common currency. Do you think that these wars will bring this hardship? Yes, indeed. Every country is going through hardship. But do you think that it will be that bad, as it is today in our part of the world? I don't think so. So African unity, Pan-Africanism is something that our leaders should go back, talk about it, and we'll look at it again. It is very important. So, Ghana had to help some other African countries to gain independence. This explains the reason why Dr. Kwame Nkrumah was giving money and some assistance to some parties, some countries like Guinea, and people say Nkrumah used our money to, to give to Guinea and all of that. The reason is, why we are suffering today, had this Pan-Africanism been achieved, I don't think we will be suffering like the way we are suffering today. Things would have been better. At least our currencies would have been strong. And so, for me, I don't blame anybody for giving money to anybody. But hey, that is that. All right. The next one also, the CPP also was able to open branches all over the country. I think I'll have a time to talk about Pan-Africanism in our subsequent videos. But now let's take it, of course, like that. Unlike the UGCC, the CPP opened, of course, branches all over the country. And that we are saying is also an achievement of the CPP party. Good. So we have had a very interesting interactions today, and I believe that you have learned a lot. Try this. Try your hand on this work. List any three of your founding members of the CPP as well as the achievement of the CPP, and let's talk together. I mean, you can share any view, anything you want to talk about, touch on, of course, contribution, anything. You can write it in the comment section. Our next video will be on the